Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Red Sea podcast. This is Dennis, as always, coming to you on another late night, as usual with these Super League specific post-game shows. And today, sadly, probably because even when me and Gav go live, or even when I go on solo shows and say, yeah, it may not be that long, we've done hours and hours on end. So today probably won't be as long, but if you're watching after, you'll have realized what's happened because I do have an important appointment tomorrow. So without wasting any time, because I still want to give you all the chaotically good analysis that we tend to do here. The Aris game, of course. The Aris game that seemed very very naturally easy up until a point, especially when we started opening up more. Starting that second half, of course, way better than the first half went. And up until that 75th minute, everything looked like it was going to be just another easy night at home against a team that hasn't beat us at home ever since 2002, if I'm not completely mistaken. But then, of course, that penalty happens and that divisive red card that we will get to talking about in a bit. And then stuff just shifts. But thankfully, we keep the needed result and we move. We move second, still just a point behind league leaders PAOK after they won 5-0 away at Ceres. And as I'm seeing, because I really wasn't paying attention to it, Ike grabbed a late winner against Panetolkos as well. But honestly, I know football can change. I know seasons can flip around. But as it's shifting to look like, it's going to be a two-horse race in the league again. As chaotic as the Super League is, in a more general factor with Levadiakos fourth, of course, Volos fifth, Panathinaikos tied with Kifisia and Aris for 6 to 8, with the goal difference being minimal at that. And in general, of course, the relegation dog scrap that there always is in the league. The fight for the league itself seems semi-determined already. And yeah, we'll see how that keeps going. You all know, especially those of you that have been watching me for a minute now, you know that I'm more of the opinion of let's keep our eyes on our work and let the others do theirs and just outperform them and outpace them. But it's needed to keep a general eye out now because I feel like it's one of the first years in many where the mid table is actually competitive. Like I said this a bit earlier in the season because good time passed, but we are 9 games in the season now. It's the first time where I see a mid-table team, for example, like Levadiakos, play actual good open football, right? And that's praise towards Levadiakos. Volos have been very surprising, honestly. Then there is the newly promoted Kifisia that are fighting big teams head on. And in general, it's all a bit unexpected and all a bit switching around constantly. So you have to keep your eye out. But back to our business, back to our game. As I was saying, the first half really only had two notable chances, and one wasn't even a chance. It's just one of the focal points of the game, where we dominated possession as expected, but out of 5 shots, we only had one big chance created. And yeah, in general, it was a bit of a snooze fest, to be honest. That big chance, relatively big chance, of course, came from Moussakitis. Relative big chance. And the biggest focal point is the penalty. The penalty that was never given, where Mehdi Taremi gets his shirt nearly torn in half, where of course we said that the Aris defender could have asked for the shirt after the game, but shirt gets pulled, Taremi gets torn down, and nothing's given. Play on. For me, the decision, I'm sure you've seen the videos, I'm sure you've seen the photos. I will start getting back to pulling up photos at the very least from stuff. I'm working on that as well, so you'll see that very soon. For me, it's as clear as it gets. It should have been a penalty, and perhaps the second half would have gone even more differently if we went into the half leading, but it should have been a penalty, for me at least. And then we go into halftime. Then the moment we enter the second half, Aris out of nowhere find a huge chance, and then after an incredible, one of the many incredible, better said, Jolaitis saves, a switch just flips. I don't know what happened. I don't know how it happened. But we just woke up. We started playing like Olympiacos should be playing. And we woke up as we should have, right? And then just 4 minutes into the half, the first goal comes. Daniel Podence breaks down the left side, if I'm not completely mistaken. And in one of the best solo goals we will probably see for the entire season, definitely one of the best solo goals we've seen thus far, Danny finally gets his second goal after his return. And that just sets us even more ablaze. That keeps us going, keeps us dominating the game, more or less. Mansa had a very good header in the 58th minute. Danny had another chance in the 60th, but that Danny saved shot wasn't saved by Athanasiadis. It was fisted away, and that went on to be picked up by Taremi in one of the strongest shots from dead-eye position that I've seen in general. Like, no one saves that. No one can physically keep that out of the net, in my opinion. It would take your hand in as well. Could break a finger. And then we kept going with El Gabi, then Pirola, and then Zelson. The chances kept on coming. But really, it seemed to be all done, honestly, after the Taremi goal. Stuff seemed to have gone down. Rodi came in for Costinha. Scipioni came in for Dani Garcia, and then the penalty happened. Over the top ball, I don't remember who picks it up. I don't remember. For the life of me, I've completely forgotten who actually got the penalty. Let me actually check out if I can find it. Who won the penalty? I cannot. But yeah, it was probably someone like Alfarella. Correct me in the comments or remind me in the comments more like. And then Mancha just grabs his shoulder and pulls him down. Clear as day. The penalty is clear as day. I said that immediately. And again, for the next argument, do correct me if I'm wrong, right? But I really thought that the rule had changed. I don't remember what it's called. I think it's called something like double jeopardy. I really don't think that by the rule book, I don't think that should have been a red. Like, I get it's the last man, but I don't think that should have been a red. But we take it, face value, penalty and red card, which Moron, of course, converts. Nothing on Jolakis. It was a very nice moment that after we conceded, the Karaskatis erupted with chanting Jolakis' name, which again, Jolakis, I put Jolakis as the MVP, and I'll get into his performance separately from everything in a bit. But after that penalty, of course, momentum flips, and Aris is back in the game. We bring on Zelson for Taremi, we bring on Pirola for Dani Podence. Alfarella came in the 81st minute, so my earlier comment was shit. And then Perez comes in the 81st as well. And chances just keep on happening. Chance after chance and save after save by Konstantinos Tsolakis. The two biggest chances, of course, are the one-on-one against Alfarella, which Tsolakis heroically saved. And then it's a low cross that Rodinei kept the Aris player on side, but Rodinei himself also saved it, redeeming himself in putting it in as simple of a sense as I possibly can. But Zolakis made countless saves, long-range efforts, short-range efforts, one-on-ones, crosses, corners, and getting into the individual performances, getting into Zolakis first. I feel like that after a while, we saw who Zolakis is, and he reminded us of who he is. He made two proper total saves. That's not doesn't include the corners and stuff. The one-on-one is his biggest save, successful run out, one high claim as well, and the rating of 74. Of course, he had one interception, he had two successful clearances, 10 recoveries, and he won a couple of his duels as well. And the passes were successful at a 68% with 19 out of 28. He had 4 successful in the opposition half. In his own half, he was 100% with 15 out of 15. And he had a 36% accuracy on the long balls with 5 out of 14. Stats are favorable, but as we said a couple of days ago with the basketball as well, it's not always the stats. The leadership, the confidence that Zolakis showed again, and the support from the fans showed that while people and players can drop in form, the class and the quality is always there, and you can keep on doing your thing, and you'll be back in form eventually. I think it was around the Esniki when I kept saying that if anyone can work a drop in form out, that's Konstantinos Zoulagis, right? We know his talent, we know his work ethic, and we know all of that. And if we want to succeed in all our goals, especially with arguably the most important game of the season coming up, we need Zoulagis at his best, and I was always certain that he would keep going at his best. It was a crazy momentum boost for him, despite the penalty, which of course not his fault, and we need him at his best on Tuesday. That's the least that could be said, right? Another man that was back to his utter best, reminding us again of his class, his quality in the 67 minutes that he played, and that was Costinha. Costinha with an incredible tackle, one of the most notable highlights of the game. Costinha with an incredible tackle after a giveaway by, I think it was Mousagitis, where the Aris player broke out on a potential one-on-one. Costinha just throwing his entire body to stop that, and then of course Zoulagis coming out and clearing that ball. Honestly, that alone shows that what Costinha needed was one good performance to just completely snap from the streak that he had. But honestly, Costinha showed the biggest positive I think that we've seen from him in a while, that we've seen from him in general, but that has been missing for a while. I think that's a better way to put it, and that's consistency throughout the entire 67 is what I said. I think I'm pretty sure I said 67. Yep. Throughout the entire of the 67 minutes that he played, he was great. With a highlight, which is what we need to be expecting from Costinha. If again we want to move forward with everyone at the top of the game. And Aris was used for that, for a lot of players that weren't on form. And for me, that's the best thing that could have happened. I'm willing to overlook the mistake on the penalty. I'm not as much willing to overlook the lack of effectiveness on the first half. But that specific mistake and the result being closer than it should have, if what this game gave us was the 3 points needed and a confidence boost for players that needed it, I'm okay with it, personally. But of course, all that we'll see on Tuesday against PSV, which is one of the most informed teams in Europe. Let's not underestimate the Dutch. Let's please not underestimate the Dutch. The two in the back, Retsos was Retsos. Retsos made an insane run down the right wing at some point, even overlapping and getting the ball and cutting in, which led to him getting elbowed in the chest and going down and scaring an entire city, the entire city of Piraeus. But he was fine, stuck out the game, finished it. Honestly, nothing bad on Retsos, but no highlights either. He had a chance, he had some stops, the ball distribution from him was amazing. Just a quiet Retsos game. A quiet, proper Retsos game. Now, onto the man of the conversation, onto the topic of the conversation. Sadly, for all the negative ways, Gustavo Mancha. It's a shame, really. It's unlucky. Because it is a stupid mistake. It would have been a costly mistake. But when you're playing for a team like Olympiacos, when you're playing for a Greek team in general, but sometimes I feel we're a bit worse in that sense. A mistake like that, even if it doesn't cost the result, for a vocal minority, it just kills your chances, right? Many people were shouting for Gustavo to play, including me, because his performances lately and the chances he has been getting, he's taking them and killed it, right? Mancha has been performing amazingly on both ends, not just defensively. He's been incredible on passing, right? And he's even had some chances to score. And that's what he did yesterday as well. He had a very good game up until that mistake. But it took just one play to completely fuck it. I hope he learns from that mistake. I hope he really does. Of course, he misses a game. I don't know if he misses that game or 3. I think he misses one game. Again, just some blaring basic football rules. Do correct me if I'm wrong again. But there are two things to take into consideration now. His end and our end. After that red and that penalty, he needs to sit down with Mendilibar, with whoever, keep working hard, keep gaining experience, and not let that mistake take the run that he had away. Because I stand on my ground, unlike many, which I'll get into, that Mansa has insane potential and he can keep rising up the ranks as long as he works his ass off and stays concentrated. Alright? That's one end. The other end. The things that people wrote for Gustavo Mansa yesterday after the penalty were surreal. Surreal. Absolutely surreal. I don't know how and why people just came to the conclusion that we need to just rip his contract apart, especially when it didn't cost us the result. But I get the frustration and the criticism up until a point. It's a bad mistake after all, but the stuff that was written is fucking insane. By the same people that were calling him amazing a few days ago as well, right? The league debut as a starter didn't go well, but we still need to support Mansa as we do every player, especially after mistakes like that. He's one of our boys, and he will show if this was a one-time mistake or if he just isn't up to the task. And that's not up to us. Okay? Criticism, once again, is a very, very good thing up until a point, but there is a thin line between criticism and demolition, and that thin line can be walked on, but if we fall on the wrong side, then the wrong's on us as well, the fans. And again, I'm putting myself in this. But we can't just rule out the player's effort, chances, contribution, and so on and so forth because of one play, especially when it didn't cost us the result. On to good things again. Bruno, the only real complaint, quote unquote, that I would have from Bruno Nivaji is his crossing ability. He needs to work on that. But in general, the strength, the pace, and the defensive ability that he has, he's proven to be not just a quality backup to Francisco Ortega, but a quality piece when he's gone. And again, we're talking about a player that needs to keep proving his place in the squad, especially since he's a second unit player. But I feel like he's doing exactly that. Now, Danny Garcia and Christos Mousakitis had mediocre games, quiet games, both had chances, both were good going forward, but something kept going wrong in the back. I loved that I saw Mousakitis start, even though that probably means that he won't start on Tuesday. But I really want to see Musakitis either play with Esse in these games, or I want to see Musakitis play with Lolo Spioni. I feel like that duo would be absolutely incredible. Now, the three behind the Ayub. Chiquinho, after a while again, going out to the right. Yeah, they switched between themselves, as always, under Mendilibar. The three behind the striker keep flipping position. I don't want Chiquinho to be forced into a position where he doesn't do shit again. As much as I love Taremi being included in the squad as a main case striker, because Taremi is one of the most effective and talented players the squad has, Chiquinho just can't be stripped of his duties, right? Mendy will figure it out, I'm sure. But, and again, I don't doubt that Chiquinho can adapt again to playing out on the right. But that's a thing to keep an eye out on. Now, on to the immediate positives. Mehdi Taremi. Mr. Effective, Mr. Goal scorer, call him whatever the hell you want. A massively impressive goal. An insane ability to get results in the box. Insane class on the ball. And talent that's honestly maybe even unmatchable up until a point. He's adapting to the Kostulas role perfectly. And I feel like now he has solidified himself as a striker, not as a striker, as a starter to this team. And him and El are working wonders together. And another man he's working wonders with is Dani Podence. Daniel scoring and assisting and having two key passes as well. Finding himself again, and hopefully, as with Jolakis, as with Costinha, this game was used to bring confidence back into his game. And aside from being the world-class winger we know of him, he starts being the world-class goal scorer we know of him as well. Ayub picking up an assist, solid game, no real highlights, but a very solid game on his end. Roddy coming in on the 67th for Costinha, made a big mistake in keeping the Aris player offside in a play that was almost an equalizer. But when Jolakis was beat, he was right there to redeem that mistake by throwing his body to keep the ball out of the net. Scipioni coming in with him for Dani Garcia. I will stand my ground and say that Scipioni is bossing the midfield and he needs to play even more, especially in the league. And then, of course, Pirola and Zelson coming in to cover off that red card. Zelson coming in for Taremi to cover off the wing, and Podence coming out to bring in Pirola, both not having the chance to do much. Pirola very effective in closing out the game, but that's about it. And of course, Nascimento coming in for Musakitis at the 90th to gain some time. Of course, my MVP, as I've said, was Kostas Zolakis. I think Mendy handled this game as well as he could have, even though, unless that means that Danny won't start on Tuesday, I would have started Scipione for this game. Despite what happened, I'm still happy that he did give Mansa a chance, and I hope that this mistake doesn't keep Mansa from proving that he deserves these chances in the league. And honestly, there's not much else to say than on to Tuesday. It's a hard game, and it's an unpredictable game. But I don't think there is a better definition of a season making or breaking game than this one. Because if we come into the Sky Games and beat PSV, then qualification is suddenly also back on, right? Even though I still believe we will sneak into the top 24, but qualification is also back on if we beat PSV. And then the momentum just shifts in the team again, and heads start to rise again. I don't want to think about the other scenario, so I'll stick and end with a positive thought. Hope you all enjoyed. If you're watching, even if you're watching after, do give me your thoughts. Do give me your thoughts, do give me your opinions, your questions, your predictions for the game against PSV, your predictions for the season in general. Interactions are more than welcome. Of course, down in the description, you can check out all the socials of the show, or you can scan this thing that's on the top of the screen right now. That will take you to the link tree. We are so close to a lot of milestones, and I am eternally, and insanely thankful and grateful. We are 9 away from 300 here. So if you like what you see today, if you like the backlog, and only if you like the backlog, do subscribe. We are rising on Instagram quicker and quicker. Twitter is close to 1K, and the stuff is just insane. So thank you all so very much, truly, and I'll see you in the next one. Probably Tuesday, hopefully with a positive attitude. Thank you all so much.